All right, Class 3A. A lot of shakeups near the bottom of the rankings this week. Even some in the middle of the rankings, and the sixth spot this week is different than it was last week, and we will get to that shortly. First of all, if you are a 3A football fan, make sure to tune into the show every week. We cover every class. Really, if you're a high school football fan in the state of Arkansas, just tune into our show. We cover every class every week. From 2A to 7A, and I try to give them all equal coverage. Some classes I'm more knowledgeable about than others, but I'm going to go ahead and get into 3A here and the rankings and the game picks. But first, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Arkansas Sports Network right here on YouTube. Hit the notification bell if you want to know whenever we post a new video. And go ahead and follow us on Twitter or X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are posting new content all the time on those platforms as well. Starting off with the consensus number one, they've been our number one since the beginning, the Prescott Curly Wolves. They are athletic as it gets. They've got all the athletes in the world. They've usually got a pretty solid line of scrimmage. If you want to watch Prescott, go ahead and go back and watch our ASN game of the week from a couple weeks ago when they played Falk. You can learn more about both of those teams and watch them in action. That game at Prescott went their way, and they proved once again why they are the top-ranked team in our rankings for Class 3A. Number two, Boonville, another team that we've covered for our ASN game of the week when they played Ozark. So you can go back and watch our coverage, our live stream of that game on both Facebook and YouTube. If you want to learn more about Ozark or Boonville, Boonville ended up winning that game. And they are always very physical. They have a great line of scrimmage every year. Maybe the best in the class. They're a run you over type of football team every year. That's what they look like they're going to be this year as well. Just give the ball to their best runners and let them do all the work for them. And Boonville, even with losing Dax Goff to graduation, has not lost a step. Number three, Rivercrest, and Rivercrest has been really impressive. Cavante Washington, Jaden Young, just to name a couple. Off of that team that you're probably going to hear a lot about down the stretch. This is a team, of course, that was in the 4A state championship last year, got bumped down to 3A, and really gave everybody a scare for a good reason whenever they heard they were moving down to Class 3A. And they haven't lost a step either. Really, really solid football team in Class 3A at our number 3 spot. Big win over Newport a couple weeks ago. Rivercrest is a team to watch out for. Number 4, Fordyce. They were a perennial 2A power for a number of years. Won more than a few state titles in that class. They move up to 3A and haven't missed a beat. Of course, Brendan Simmons is a name that you're going to want to watch out for with Fordyce. Cadillac Ellison, their quarterback, their freshman quarterback, is extremely talented as well. Seems to be a trend in Arkansas high school football that there's a lot of freshman quarterbacks that are really, really putting on a show so far this season. Fordyce is no exception. Ellison has looked as good as any. Number 5, Bismarck. A little bit of an opposite situation than what Fordyce has. They have their senior leader, Ben Keithley, at quarterback. Of course, Johnny Diaz, one of the playmakers, lined up alongside him on the offense. And this Bismarck Lions football team continues to impress every week. Coming off of their fantastic season last year, they haven't missed a step either. They come in at number 5. Osceola comes in at number 6 after their impressive win over Newport last week, 41-27. They're going to be a team to watch out for. They moved to our number 6 spot into our top 10 after their win over Newport last week. They look like a promising contender. Number 7, Mayflower remains undefeated after a tight game with Melbourne It's looking like there's a good possibility at the end of the season that they will play a conference championship matchup with the Atkins Red Devils. And that's another great story out of Class 3A, the turnaround that they've had under Coach Dobbs. Mayflower is a team that continues to roll from the central region of Arkansas, just on the outskirts of Conway. Coach Austin Emerson has great facilities there. He has a great line of scrimmage. He has all the necessary pieces to build a contender, and he's done just that. Number 8, Rison. They have a new head coach this season, and he has brought his winning ways to the Wildcats. This is a program with a lot of history, a program that was a little bit down, but now have gotten back up. Rison and Fordyce is a game that we are looking forward to. It's going to be a really interesting game. A lot of fun. That rivalry is every year. Should be even more fun this season. Newport at number 9. Losses to Rivercrest and Osceola have bumped them down from where they were a couple weeks ago in the rankings, but there's still no denying the talent that they have. Keandre Baker, Antonio Phillips. They got all of the necessary pieces to win a championship, really. They looked really good the first couple weeks. Dominated the line of scrimmage against Class 2A Mark Tree in their opening game, and that really impressed me. I went back and watched the live stream that Newport did of that game, and their line of scrimmage dominated, and that was before we knew the concerns of Mark Tree's line of scrimmage. And they can put up points. There's no doubt about that. Their defense has to get stops though if they want to be a serious contender. Number 10, Centerpoint remains undefeated this week, moving into our top 10. Centerpoint is a team that the last couple of years has really made a name for themselves. I remember they beat Bigelow a couple of years ago on like a last-second field goal or something. It was a really tight game down to the wire. Of course, I keep up with Class 2A and that conference that Bigelow is in pretty heavily. So I remember when they beat Bigelow, they've just been a really impressive program, and I started to pay attention to them after that game. They've been a really impressive program, really ever since. They've come out undefeated start this season, and they have more than enough reason to be in our top 10. Let's go ahead and get into our game picks for the week, starting with Osceola and Harrisburg. Osceola should roll big time in this one. Osceola 4-1, Harrisburg 1-4. Harrisburg 1-5. I think that this game really will be a tone setter for Osceola down the stretch. They're going to continue their momentum. They're going to get a big victory in this game. Mansfield versus Cedarville. Mansfield is a team that has bounced back strongly from their opening week loss in a close game to Bismarck. I think that's a team that's going to start climbing up the rankings here sooner rather than later, and they'll get a win this week over Cedarville. Drew Central versus Rison. I think this is another layup for Rison. Drew Central is a team that has struggled this season. I think Rison rolls in this game. Walnut Ridge and Rivercrest. This game, of course, Walnut Ridge bounced from our rankings after their loss a couple weeks ago, but they're still 5-1. Rivercrest is 6-0. It's definitely worth paying. This game is definitely worth paying attention to, but I'm going to pick Rivercrest to get the victory in this game. Paris versus Jessieville. Paris 3-3, Jessieville 4-2. I'm going to pick Jessieville to get the victory in this game because the game's at Jessieville, and I think they do a lot of things really well, or at least well enough to get the victory in this game. Atkins and Melbourne. If Atkins wins this game, they're on the fast track to play Mayflower for the conference championship in the final game of the season. Atkins is a team that has only lost to Class 2A Conway Christian, and that game was at Atkins. It was a crazy game. I was there, crazy finish. Atkins drove down the field, had one shot to kick a field goal to tie the game, send it to overtime on 4th and goal. and they just missed it. Could have easily won that game. They had a couple missed opportunities, shot themselves in the foot a couple times. Atkins is a very talented football team. A lot of tradition at that program. I think Atkins gets the victory this week in a close game against Melbourne. Episcopal versus Mountain View. Episcopal's 0-6. Mountain View is 3-3. I'm going to pick Mountain View to get the victory this week over Episcopal and get another conference win. Mayflower and Quitman. Quitman 3-3. They hit 500 after their win over Episcopal last week. Mayflower, though, is going to be way too much to handle for the Bulldogs. Mayflower rolls and wins big in this one. Yellow Summit versus Salem. I am going to pick Salem to get the victory in this game. Salem is a team that got beat by 4 last week by Atkins. They, though, will bounce back this week and get a victory over Yellow Summit at home. Parker's Chapel versus Prescott. I hate to say it, but this game will probably have, if there were spreads for each game, this game would have the biggest spread. Parker's Chapel struggling this season in their transition from 8-man to 11-man. Prescott, in our opinion, the best team in the class. Prescott will win big in this game. Newport versus Manila. Newport will win big in this game. They're going to bounce back from a couple losses and go to 5-2 on the season. Horatio and Smackover. I'm going to have to pick the Buckaroos to get the victory in this game. I think that Coach Don Harrison will have his team rolling this week and get a big victory and move closer to 500 with a win over Horatio. Greenland versus Hackett. Greenland is a team with Slade Norwood that was tied with Boonville 14-14 early in the game last week before eventually Boonville took complete command of that game and won big time. I am going to pick, this is tough. I'm going to pick Greenland to get the victory in this game. I think Hackett's a team with a lot of potential, but they're 2-4. Greenland's 3-3, and I think Slade Norwood's one of the more talented passers in the game. I am going to pick Greenland to get the victory in a close game this week. Glen Rose versus Perryville. This is a game that earlier in the season we thought might decide the conference. Don't know if that's how it's going to shake out. Glen Rose has bounced back from starting 0-3 to win 3 straight. Perryville is a team that has only lost by 1 point to Atkins earlier in the season. I'm going to have to pick Perryville because the game's at Perryville. It's a tough place to play, and Coach Fairbanks has the Mustangs rolling. Dumas versus Palestine Wheatley. I'm going to have to pick Dumas to get the victory in this game. They're going to move one step closer to 500 with this victory. Cutter Morning Star and Two Rivers. 2 struggling programs, both teams 0-6, both with a chance to score their first victory this week. I'm going to pick Cutter Morning Star to get the victory. Their transition from 8-man to 11-man hasn't been the strongest either, but I do think they're going to get their first win this week at Two Rivers. Charleston versus Lavaca. I am going to pick Charleston to get the victory in this game. Coach Ricky May and Carter Little at quarterback. This team has a lot of potential. I'm going to pick them to get the victory in this game. Centerpoint versus Falk at Falk. This is a tough one. But I'm going to have to go with Centerpoint. I think that Falk is a very talented team. They beat a lot of teams in Class 2A that I'm high on, including Murfreesboro and Dirks. But I'm going to have to pick Centerpoint to get the victory in this conference matchup. Bismarck versus Harmony Grove, Washtenaw County. Hard to pick against Bismarck at this point, so I'm going to pick the Lions. I think they're going to get the victory. Ben Keithley is the real deal. Harmony Grove, Washtenaw County is a team that I was really high on after they beat Junction City, and that was before we kind of realized the gap between 3A and 2A this year. I'm going to have to pick Bismarck, though, to get the victory and move to 7-0. McGee versus Barton. McGee, a very storied program. Barton the same way. 2 of the more blue blood programs in the state match up this week. I'm going to have to pick McGee, though, to get the victory in this one on the road. Pickett and Hoxie. Hoxie's a team that has struggled so far this season, but they should roll in a home conference game over Pickett and move to 3-4 this week. Lakeside versus Fordyce. Fordyce 6-0, Lakeside 1-5. I'm going to have to pick Fordyce to roll big time in this game behind their physical front and their great quarterback, Cadillac Ellison. West Fork versus Boonville. Boonville is a team that I think is going to roll big time in this one. 6-0 to start the season. They're going to move to 7-0 with the victory over West Fork this week. Magnet Cove versus Danville. Coach DJ Crane showing that he will build Danville into a better team every week. They are still in the rebuilding stage of that program. I do think that he will turn that program around eventually. However, I think that Magnet Cove and Coach Dean Adams will get the victory this week. That's going to do it for Class 3A. A little bit of a shorter segment this week just because some of the games I feel like were just layups as far as the picks. Not a whole lot of conversation needed. And the rankings I think were pretty easy to explain as well. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell on our YouTube channel at AR Sportsnet on X, Instagram, and Facebook. I believe on YouTube it's at AR Sportsnet as well. So go ahead, follow, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Make sure that we get our content out to the people who want to see it most. And as always, this has been the ASN Ranking Show, and I'm Carson Ward, signing off.